Hi friends, welcome to our third episode and I'm Yagnesh Desai. Friends, like you, I'm operating from home. I'm working from home. So I'm missing my normal sound reduction setup in my office. I'm missing my friend Kishan Desai who is always there to help me with the cordless mic and the professional camera. So I'm shooting this episode on my Samsung Galaxy. So you to bear with me for some kind of a noise interruption in case you come across. Friends, in our today's episode, we're going to discuss about changes and some kind of relief measures announced by the Honorable Finance Minister today on 24th of March 20. We have received only the press release note as yet, and we are still awaiting the notification or the circulars. Normally, the press release note do not discuss too much of the technicalities or the technical details, which are often discussed in great detail by the notifications of the circulars from the relevant departments. However, in the meanwhile, based on the whatever information we have got today in the press note, we have prepared this small episode for you. Once we get the notifications and the clarifications, we'll again come back to you with great detail and clarification. The first and foremost thing about today's pronouncement, these small changes or the recommendations or the relief, rather, I would say, pertain to the deadlines, timelines of filing certain returns like TDS returns, income tax returns, GST returns, and the returns to be filed under the Companies Act. Let's start with the income tax. As far as returns for the TDS and TCS are concerned, the deadline has been extended till 30 June 20. Mind you well, only the deadline for filing the return has been extended and not the deadline for payment of the deposit of tax. The tax have to be deposited either by 7th of April in case of TCS or in case of salary and non-salary returns by 30th of April 20. So be careful. The deadline has been extended only for filing the TDS returns and not for the payment of the TDS. So be careful about that. The second change which has been brought about is extension of Vivad se Viswas scheme. This scheme was there till 30th June 2009, but it was there, the payment was to be made in two phases. If you pay before 31st March 20, then you have to pay, you are liable to pay only the tax. But if you're paying after 31st March 20, but before 30 June 20, in that case you had to pay 10% extra of the tax. Now, with this change, you don't need to pay any 10% extra and you can still pay after 31st March 20 but before 30 June 20. A very welcome change in view of the present economic scenario and in view of the nationwide lockdown. So here, those who were liable to pay deposit TDS or TCS were should have been given some relief and extension of the date for the payment of the TDS and TCS. But well, let's hope that we get some relief in a day or two. FM may perhaps announce some relief. But as of now, TDS deadline is only for filing return and not for payment of the deposit of taxes. All right. Now there's one more change about the one more return, and that is the income tax return for the financial year March 19. Ideally, this return should have been filed either before 31st July or in case of the tax audit before the 30th September. But in case in case someone has not filed the return or not been able to file the return, in that case the deadline has been extended till 30th June 20. In case any tax was liable to be paid on such delayed returns, then the tax will now be levied, interest will now be levied at 9% as against 12%. Again, you must have been hearing in the newspapers and the maybe getting the SMSs or the emails from the department that you must link Aadhaar with PAN. Deadline for that was again 31st March 20. This deadline has been now extended till 30 June 2020. So these were the changes concerning the Income Tax Act. Now let's talk about these were the changes about the compliances of the filing returns. But now let's talk about some deadlines for the investments. We all know that we get deduction in the taxable income when we contribute to PPF, when we pay the LIC premium, or we invest in the tax saving devices under Section 80C, and when we donate, we also get some kind of a deduction. A press note is not clear whether PPF and all other accounts are PPF 80C and Section 80C and Section 80G of the Income Tax Act are covered or not. Hopefully, those investments should also have the deadline of 30 June 20 and not 31st March 20. But this will get clarified only once we have the notifications from the CBDT. However, in my opinion, even if the PPF is deposited after 31st March and before 30 June, should be eligible for deduction under Section 80C. Let's now come to GST. Very good changes. Again, extending the deadlines till 30th June 20. GST 3B form for the month of February, March and April can be filed up to 30 June 20 without paying any late fees, any penalties or any interest for those entities or the taxpayers which has turnover less than 5 crore rupees. I repeat, those traders or the entities whose turnover is less than 5 crore rupees, they can file the return and without paying any late fees, without paying any penalties or without paying any interest charges. And the deadline for GST 3B for February, March and April has been extended till 30 June. Now, those traders whose turnover is more than 5 crores, they again don't have to pay any late fees and no penalties. However, they will be charged interest only at 9%. Alright, now let's talk about the composition scheme. The date for opting the composition scheme for the next financial year, which is 2021, was 31st March 20. This date also has been extended to 30 June 20. Again, for those dealers or the traders which has opted for the composition scheme, they were supposed to file the return by March 20. This date also has been extended to 30 June 20. Annual return for the GST for the financial year 18-19 was to be filed before 31st March 20. Again, this deadline has been extended till June 20. Now let's talk about the Companies Act. Very big change from the perspective of the auditors. CARO 2020 was supposed to have been applied for financial year 1920. This has been now deferred to 2021. In other words, applicability of CARO 2020 has now been extended to the financial year 2021 and not financial year 1920. This means for the financial year 1920, CARO 2016 will be applicable and not CARO 2020. Again, a common extension has been given, kind of a moratorium has been issued from the April 20 till 30th September 20. No additional fees will be levied for the late filings. So the company can file the returns which were due between April 20 to 30th September 20 without paying any late fees. Declaration for the newly incorporated company was supposed to have been filed within 6 months from the date of the incorporation. The same date has now been extended by another 6 months, so a total period of 1 year from the date of incorporation for declaration of certain compliances. Some relaxation for the independent directors for the financial year 1920 for attending the board meeting, and again for the board meeting relaxation has been given for another 60 days for 2 quarters. We'll detail in great detail when we get the notifications. And the minimum residency yardstick for the directors have been extended uh, and been relaxed rather. Very important change for the public deposits. The relaxation for the contribution to deposits reserves have been extended till 30 June from March 20. Regarding the insolvency and the bankruptcy code, certain relaxation has been given. Now, some changes concerning the bank related transactions. Some changes related to banking transactions. For the debit card holders, good news that even if you withdraw from the other bank's ATM, you don't have to pay any charges. So even if the withdrawals are from the other bank's ATM, no charges to be paid. No minimum balance requirement, and bank charges reduced for the digital trade transactions. Now these were the changes, or some I would call it so-called relaxations given by the FM. But FM may now come out with some economic relief package. What should we expect from the FM? We should expect, or rather plead the FM that, ma'am, please reduce the interest rate like the way other countries have done. Announce some kind of a moratorium for the repayment of the loan. Announce some kind of a ease the norms of working capital requirements. And maybe, maybe at the cost of hoping too much, some reduction in the income tax rate, which is very unlikely. And two important things. Of late, many people have been speculating about the extension of the financial year. They say that financial year should be extended from 31st March to 30 June 2020. So in that case, we'll have the 15 months of the financial year ending, beginning from April 2019 to 30 June, if it happens. It's highly speculated though. And one more concern about the banks and the bank's audit. Normally, the bank audits are statutory audit, and that too a yearly audit gets over by first week or maybe the 10th of the April. Now, given the scenario of the national lockdown and this kind of you know situation, it is expected that even the deadline for the bank audit may be extended till 30 June 2020. But it's all matter of speculation, ifs and buts. That's all for the now for this episode, and we may come out with the more detailed PPTs and explanation once we get the notifications oblique the circulars. Till now, goodbye. Take care of yourself. Stay at home. Let's cooperate with PM's call. घर पे रहो. Confined to home. Take care of your relatives, yourselves. Bye for now.